Man, oh man, we might be getting to the season finale sooner than later on this show. We will find out, but the Utah Jazz lose another bad one. This one may be worse in a way than the last one. Let's talk about it. It's the Hoopsner Show. All right, guys. So last game, you see the Jazz give up a big lead like they do all season long. This game, you just see the Dallas Mavericks without Luka Doncic, without Tim Hardaway, just dominate the Jazz again. Just dominated them. There was at no point did it feel like the Dallas Mavericks were nervous, were bothered, that anything the Jazz did had them worried at any point. They just kind of knew they were going to win the game. And that's kind of the crazy thing about this series is just how unafraid of the Jazz the Dallas Mavericks were. Now, let's dive into it a little bit, although these numbers are just going to hurt my feelings. How Jalen Brunson had just another insane night, although tonight wasn't quite as good as last game. Last game, I believe he was a 60-60. Tonight, he was 54% from the field, 0 for 4 from 3, so I guess the Jazz improved somewhat. He still was 54% from the field, 7 for 7 from the free throw line, and had 5 assists, 31 points. He was a -1. It's incredible. Dwight Powell played 13 minutes, and they sat him. Maxi Kleber, 6 for 7, 4 for 5 from 3. It's absolutely wild. So let's see. Kleber in this game. Let's go to basketball. Well, maybe this is the slow way to do it. Let's do it. Let's go quicker. Oh, I got to show the stats. I forgot to change. I don't know. All right, let's go. Let's see. And I guess should we be surprised that Dallas is the 4 seed? So, I mean, I don't know. I think our perceptions of this season are so out of whack. All right, let's see. So this one. Oh, no, it was not this one. It was this one. Sorry, this is just live. This is just going to be what it is. So Kleber, last game goes. He went bonkers. Come on. Right there. 8 for 11 from 3. So he goes 8 for 11 from 3 last game. Tonight he goes, let's see, 4 for 5. That means he's going 12 for 16. 4, 8, 12, 16. He's shooting 75% from 3 in the series. There you go. That's live show for you. Absolutely destroying the Jazz. And he was apparently struggling from 3 before this series. Leave it to the Jazz coaching staff, the Jazz perimeter defenders, the Utah Jazz game plan to allow something like this to happen. It's unbelievable. Josh Green, who the Jazz didn't guard last game, someone in the locker room said, like, don't worry. And he went 3 for 5 from 3. By the way, I drafted Josh Green for the Jazz in the SLC Dunk mock draft, so this is somewhat validating for me on a personal level. There's a lot of weird emotions for me with this loss because of a lot of these things we talked about. You know, last season, we talked about it when the Jazz lost. There were some things that we mentioned in that show that the Jazz need to think about. And then basically all season long. And you know, it like sucks to see it come to fruition. Everything we were worried about and talked about, you know, I personally was hoping it would not happen. But we're just watching everything we feared and everything we talked about coming true. It sucks. It sucks, but this is just the reality, and I don't know what the Jazz do at this point. Now, there is one thing we saw this game that was interesting. We'll talk about it. But I just wanted to end it. Spencer Dinwiddie couldn't shoot the ball. He could hit. It's kind of surprising. So sometimes, you know, I actually go into these stats blind sometimes. I don't know. Like sometimes I'll check them. Like let's say Donovan's having a big game or something. Or remember when Rudy almost had a triple-double with blocks? You know, I'll come in and sometimes glance, but I go blind. And I'm actually surprised because it felt like Dinwiddie hit bigger threes. He wasn't hitting tonight. It was just all Kleber and Josh Green. We talked about this actually before. Like, Josh Green missed 4 threes in that first game. The Jazz are like 4 missed Josh Green threes from being down 0-3. It's crazy. It's crazy. We got dunked on by Davis Bertans. Mose from The Office there was a picture. I almost used it for the thumbnail for this video and for the SLC dunk. By the way, shout out to Jason Walker for getting that up. Everyone pray for Jason Walker. He had to write the recap for this. But Davis Bertans was like dabbing and like stunting on the Jazz tonight. And when Davis Bertans, Mose from The Office, is like doing the Jordan tongue on you, that's time. That is the sign that it's time to tank note and trade them all and just start from scratch. We may have to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Jazz. But first, Cook It Up ZZ, I believe from Australia, $7.99 with the Australian dollars. I appreciate it, my friend. Cook It Up. I mean, we're up for a very cold summer for the Utah Jazz, so thank you so much for the donation. Jazz don't need to rebuild. We need to retool. Oh, you disagree with me. Fire Quinn, by the way, I agree. Yes. Yeah, we're just there. By the way, and what's wrong with Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Maybe length on Brunson. Why not? Why not a little Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Because right now, basically the game plan for this Utah Jazz is doo-doo. It's the same thing. It's the same thing we always do. It's Pinky in the brain. It's the same thing we do every playoffs, Pinky. We run the same drop, big defense, and everyone knows how to attack it. Like we always do. Shout out Pinky in the brain. Oh, boy. Is that enough talking about the Mavericks? Mavericks fans, drop me a like if you're here for talking about your team that's crushing my soul. Could you believe if you had come into the season and someone said, Jalen Brunson is the one that's going to end this team, I don't know if I'd have believed you, but that's what we're watching. The final death knell in this Jazz team is being done by Jalen Brunson. I don't know. You know, it's like the old Shakespeare. Is it Shakespeare? I don't know. I don't even know. But better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Is that Shakespeare? I don't know. But sometimes I wonder, is it better to be the Kings and not have a shot and not feel this pain? Or is it better to be the Jazz and have a glimpse of that top of the mountain and then roll down like a snowball, like Mad Mardigan and Willow rolling down the mountain? Because that's what's going on right now. I don't know what's worse or what's better. Everyone let me know. Everyone let me know in the comments. Because it hurts. It hurts. And here's the thing, whether you're pro, and that's the other thing. We're all pro the Jazz in the end, right? This like pro Rudy stuff and pro Donovan stuff is really stupid. It's really dumb. I personally am pro both. I'm pro both, but I let's just get into it. Let's talk about the Jazz. We don't have Manscaped anymore. They dropped us too, kind of like the Mavericks are dropping the Jazz. Maybe we'll bring back Manscaped. We'll see. Me crawling to Manscaped. Come on. Come back. No. I'm just kidding. But normally this is where the ad would be. Anyways, thanks a lot, Jazz. You're costing me a lot. In a lot of ways. A lot of ways, Jazz. And not just with this. All right? A lot. With the blog, okay? Ah! No one has more incentive for this team to win than me. Maybe that's what brings the honesty. I don't know. All right, let's talk about the Utah Jazz, shall we? It is a Utah Jazz channel. Rudy Gobert goes 6 for 6 from the field. He had 7 rebounds, 15 points. He was a minus 16. I believe that was the worst plus minus of the team, along with Mike Conley. Oh, rough. Mike Conley goes 6 for 14 from the field. This is actually better than I thought. 42%, 2 for 7 from 3. Can't hit a 3 for whatever reason. 21 points for Mike Conley because he did get 8 free throws, which is good. This is actually better than I thought, and 6 assists. So this is a better night than he thought, but he was minus 16. Let's see. Where do we begin? Let's start. There should be no I'm pro Rudy, I'm pro Donovan. There should just not be that. That is silliness. This is the Jazz. We are Jazz fans. This is a Jazz channel. By the way, join the NBA channel soon. Oh, another thing. I'm going to be uploading some of the screenshots and images and things to the starters and the all-stars for my project I'm working on for the NBA channel. I may have to pivot what I'm doing because it appears that this Jazz team is going to be different next year. And it takes time for animation. There's your clue. If you're a starter and an all-star, you'll see that soon. And I'm committed to doing a better job of giving you guys rewards for joining the channel. I'm committed. I got to do better. I got to adjust. I got to adapt, unlike Quinn Snyder. All right, so where do we start? I guess there should be no Rudy camp. There should be no Donovan camp. We should be rooting for both of them, like we do. I believe we all do, right? We all do. We're all rooting for the Jazz in the end. If the Jazz win the finals, who cares, like, who's the most important guy, who's the face of the franchise? In the end, you want to win the title. But I think what's very clear right now that this Jazz team is just completely broken. It is completely flawed in a way that just is unassailable at this point. And the Jazz have to adjust. I mean, this could all sound ridiculous. Next game, the Jazz could blow them out. Maybe Luka Doncic comes back and Quinn Snyder has Rudy Gobert ISOing on defense on Luka for major parts of the game. And maybe that in a weird way helps the Jazz. Maybe. But I just don't think so. This Jazz team just has flaws. One, I don't even know where to start. Well, first off, let's start with this donation from Cook It Up ZZ again. Thank you, sir. James, we need Rubio back. Also, what do you want the Jazz to do in the summer? What players do you want gone/stay, and what new players you want in Utah? Thank you, Cook It Up ZZ. We're gonna talk about that. I want to finish this point, and then let's just dive into that. This Jazz team is just unable. It has an absolute hard ceiling, and that ceiling keeps lowering every playoffs because against Denver, Quinn Snyder was playing certain players to guard, and maybe that Jazz team did better because Joe Ingles was on the floor, but Quinn Snyder kept Joe Ingles guarding Jamal Murray against Denver, and it was an absolute death knell. There was nothing the Jazz could do, and it was that perimeter defense back then. It has not improved. So we can blame Joe Ingles, but it was also Donovan. It was also Royce who could not guard him. I mean, there was like absolute red flags in that Denver Nuggets bubble series that we should have adjusted to and did not. Dennis Lindsey sucked. From that point on, just absolutely sucked and did not do what he should have done. And that was why he was fired. The last 3 offseason has absolutely been the death knell in this team because what's the option? I mean, Desmond Bane last year, we could have drafted him. I mean, we were on a live draft show where I was just begging for him, right? Anyone who was here was watching the live draft show just begging. And they didn't do it. It was so obvious. I had in my draft projections, I had him as a lottery guy. I was blown away that he was not picked by pick 15. That was what was so wild about that. And then the fact that he fell to the Jazz and they drafted Udoka was unbelievable. Zach Watts, my man, $9.99. Thank you, my friend, Zach Watts. Honestly, thank you so much. How about our genius coach finally going small, seeing it work, but still insist on closing with starters? It cost us the game. When he put the starters back in, it legit cost us the game. Only a true basketball savant could possibly understand, I guess. Yeah. Can we stop listening to the Jazz media clique online telling us who's bad and who's good and why Quinn's a genius? And I mean, is there any team out there that their media and stuff just constantly praises the coach? Here's the thing that drives me nuts, and I don't think, I don't know. Actually, maybe Quinn is just bad. Maybe he's just flat out bad. Even me, maybe I'm partly to blame to say he's like good. He might be just bad. But anyways, because here's the thing: if you get Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert fall into your lap, chances are most guys are going to have a pretty good defense if they have Rudy Gobert. And chances are, if you get Donovan Mitchell and he plays like he does the first 4 or 5 years of his career, you're going to look pretty smart if you have even average players around those guys, right? Anyways, again, shout out to Zach Watts. I lost my train of thought. The Jazz have a ceiling like this. It's lowering because the way they play the last 3, 4, 5 years, basically the last 7 years with Quinn Snyder coaching, is that they have adapted to his coaching style and put the players on the floor that he will play because Quinn refuses to play certain guys. Quinn does not care about perimeter defense. I don't care what anyone says. He does not care. He does not care. He doesn't care. And as much as I trashed on Dennis Lindsey for the last 3 years, I mean, Lindsey tried to provide perimeter defense. Dennis Lindsey saw these flaws and tried to fix them. He did a terrible job the last 3 years, but he saw the issues, and Quinn Snyder wouldn't play him. As much as everyone gets mad at me, who would be pretty nice on this team right now? Dante Exum. Why? A long, athletic, very good isolation defender. Very good. He would have helped. But we don't care about perimeter defense on this team. We don't care. Quinn Snyder does not care. He does not care. Years and years, we've tried to pick up defensive players. They don't get on the floor. They don't play. Mie Aoni, was the most athletic long wing we've had in a long time. Wouldn't play. Looked good in the Olympics. For Quinn Snyder, he looks terrible, apparently. And Jazz media, that's what I was going to say. Is there any other team out there that has their team media that just worships the coach like he is absolutely untouchable, like he's some sort of Jazz apostle? And if he doesn't play a guy, not only do they back up the coach, but they tell the fan base that he's bad. They do that with the players. Literally people will say Jared Butler's bad because Quinn Snyder doesn't play him, because apparently Quinn Snyder is some basketball Einstein. Well, guess what? The last 3 playoffs have proven that maybe he doesn't quite know what he wants. And the fact that they had 4 assistant coaches, including their VP of talent acquisition, leave the team last offseason, a lot of people were jumping ship last year. 4 of them. Because Basketball Genius gets all the credit and all of them doing all the work. Johnny Bryant, the one that went to Dallas, he's in Dallas right now telling them how to do it. In fact, I forgot about that. What was his name? But he's on Dallas right now from Utah. And you know what he's saying? He's saying, these guys, here's what you do. It's not that hard, and he won't change. Unbelievable. Memphis, $449. Is that pounds? I'm not quite sure, but thank you, my friend. Gobert Bogdanovich for Cat or Gobert for Siakam? What you think, bro? Do you want me to hurt your feelings right now? I am going to hurt your feelings. So we're here in Salt Lake. I'm here in Utah. I work in Salt Lake. I live outside of Salt Lake, but I work in Salt Lake. Anyways, things get around in this town. Word gets out. We're going to just talk about the rumor that people were saying, and it was on Twitter too. Apparently, someone at Qualtrics likes to talk about the Jazz and things they heard. The rumor, Igor Kokoskov, but he's actually the other one, DW. It was, what was his name? I forgot his name. He was the one that looked like he was 18 years old. I can't remember his name. He had glasses. Anyways, rumor was that and this could be completely false. This could be completely false, made up, completely fabricated. So all the salt, grains of salt you want. So this is just rumor stuff that I saw on Twitter. But people on Twitter were saying that someone at Qualtrics was passing rumors that the Jazz got offered the number 4 pick in last year's draft and Pascal Siakam for Rudy Gobert. And why did it make sense at the time? Remember all the conflict going on in Toronto? Pascal Siakam had kind of a downer year and was clashing with the team. Remember, Pascal Siakam got suspended last year for having locker room issues, and they suspended him for his whatever it was, bad behavior, whatever you call it. I can't remember. Anyways, they were up for trading Siakam. That's why it makes sense to me. And the number 4 pick ends up being Scotty Barnes, who likely becomes the rookie of the year. Did I hurt your feelings? Have I hurt your feelings yet? So this team could have had 2 excellent, plus, long, tall, athletic defenders on the wing who play hard. And we passed. We said no. We said the last 2 playoffs, you know what I like? I like that. I like giving up a 3-1 lead, and I like giving up a 2-0 lead. And you know what we need to do this season? The exact same thing. So we go from 3-1 up to 2-0 up to now 1-0 up. And I am not sure that the Jazz win another game. Is anyone else sure that the Jazz win a game? I don't know. But just think, Scotty Barnes, when he wins Rookie of the Year, and Pascal Siakam, who was borderline All-Star again, had like an incredible year at times this year. Like, Pascal was good, guys. This year, Pascal was good. The second half of the year, he was like balling. And you know why that's painful? Let's talk about it. So I don't want to trash on Rudy Gobert. Like, I love Rudy Gobert. My workstation is basically a Rudy Gobert shrine. I have personally seen Rudy Gobert's charity stuff that he's done. He's incredible. He's amazing. He is honestly a genuinely kind, awesome, fantastic human being. And he's an incredible defender. He's the best rim protector in the history of the league. He's incredible. He's incredible. With this makeup of a team, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so the things that people used to say 2 years ago, like, oh, Rudy Gobert, just get him on the perimeter. And, you know, we see one clip of Steph Curry, like, getting Rudy Gobert to spin around, and it, like, was the narrative for, like, a year and a half. And then people slowly realized with time that Rudy Gobert is actually great. When he guards on the perimeter, he's really good. It's why I think the last shot for this Jazz team is to just have Rudy Gobert be your main point of attack defender. We don't have one. You know, Royce O'Neal isn't it. And Quinn Snyder refuses to start Danuel House. So why not just have Rudy Gobert guard Jalen Brunson? You know, just have Rudy Gobert guard him. And have Rudy guard him for 36 minutes. What else do you got to lose? The Jazz are on the verge of losing the series. What else? What have you got to lose besides the game doing it the same way over time? Joshua Hansen, the Danish Destroyer, my man. Thank you so much. $10. Thank you so much. You are spot on, brother. This strategy is absolute bull. So who do we get coach-wise? Keep at it, my man. Maybe we should do a show about that, because honestly, like, I think one thing we've got to stop doing is, like, you know, worship whatever you want. Worship God, worship whatever you want. Don't worship anything. But what I would tell you is we need to stop as a fan base worshiping coaches and worshiping players. Can we stop doing that? Like, that's my personal saying. I worship God, not coaches. You know? Because why? Because if you do that, then you stop treating them and, like, looking at the flaws and saying, what is going on here? Why are we doing this? And then you start realizing, okay, we can be better. Here's the thing. Here's the point. How many people mocked the Clippers when they got Ty Lue? I think I might have even mocked them. You know, there was a part of me that was, like, interested, like, well, I guess we'll find out if it was LeBron James that was great or if it was Ty Lue. Turns out Ty Lue's pretty great. And Ty Lue deserves a lot more credit for those Cleveland Cavaliers championships than he gets, because he's phenomenal in LA. And honestly, if you want to find out who, like, destroyed this Jazz team, it was Ty Lue. I mean, Ty Lue is like he is the Grim Reaper of this Utah Jazz team. He just absolutely showed the blueprint. And what's crazy is, even though he showed that blueprint, Quinn still hasn't changed it. We still do the drop big. This offseason, we didn't get a single, like, wing defender. They went out and got Rudy Gay, 36-year-old Rudy Gay with foot surgery. That was the move? I mean, really? And the reports from Tim McMahon when he was on the podcast with Zach Lowe saying that the Jazz had a trade with the Golden State Warriors initially for Joe Ingles, and Quinn Snyder threw an absolute fit that and said that they shouldn't do it, would have looked really nice by now. And then in the season, we all talk about how and I think one thing I have been definitely wrong about this year is I probably underestimated Joe Ingles' impact on the offense. The defense was putrid, is terrible. But I think what I probably was wrong about, and I don't even think it's probably, I for sure, is the offensive impact of Joe Ingles. Now, the defensive impact was terrible. It was terrible, but I do think they miss his offense. And, maybe he does provide some sort of locker room. I don't know. I actually tend to believe that less. At a certain point, be a professional team and go do your job, right? James, let's see. Memphis, thank you again, sir. James, love your show and keep it up. Very honest man and stay happy in life, brother. I live in London. Oh, thank you, my friend. And it's almost 7 a.m. I've been up watching Utah. Well, I truly apologize, Memphis. I really hope you get some sleep. James, 449 again. Thank you, sir. James, if we lose the series, what's your next 5 moves if you're a GM? All right, let's see. We got to talk about, let's see. I got to make sure I don't miss the questions. Okay, who do I want gone from Cook It Up ZZ? I'll get to these and I will answer all the questions. I want to make sure I answer them, but I want to finish this point. So anyways, what I was trying to get to, and I'm kind of rambling a little bit, is this Jazz team is flawed the way it's constructed. And it's flawed because the coach won't play defensive players. The front office has basically brought the players that this coach wanted and who he wants to play that fit his system. Honestly, the thing that matters most to Quinn is his system. And the system just is, and we were talking about Ty Lue cracking the system. He doesn't change it. He may do some things. I think one thing I would give Quinn credit for this year is that Bogey stopped doing those dumb ISOs from the 3-point line, and now it's basically 3-pointers and drives to the rim, and he does his post-ups against mismatches, although the Mavericks took that away this game. Absolutely getting out-coached in every way is Quinn Snyder by Jason Kidd. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. We clowned Ty Lue. We said, how lame is Monty Williams? Never won anything, and he's going to the Suns, and he's so dumb. He's not as good as Quinn Snyder. Well, the Suns were the best team in the league this year. And I know they missed Devin Booker. That makes this series even worse. Can you imagine us losing this series and the Suns maybe losing to the Pelicans because of Devin Booker's injury? I mean, it just is the pain of it is honestly almost unbearable. And then look what Ty Lue did with the Clippers. They have not had Kawhi. They didn't have Kawhi in the series against us, and he just absolutely did circles around Quinn. And is just showing the fact that Clippers team made the playoffs this year is unreal. Ty Lue should be coach of the year, in my opinion. I think he's unbelievable. And so I think we got to stop saying we've got to stop saying this. It's this conundrum with Utah. It's we both call ourselves the best, or we say things like, oh, Quinn Snyder's the best coach in the NBA. We will say, in one sentence, I'll see people say Quinn Snyder's the best coach in the NBA. Oh, we have the best defense in the NBA. Oh, best this in the NBA. And then in the other one, we'll say well, why would we change? We can never get anything better. So it's we don't believe we're the best, but we say that we're the best or something. And maybe that's a coping thing as fans. What they do is it's better to say we're the best. So why would we change? Because we're afraid of going for it. I don't know. It's really, 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 I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't. So what I would say is the long story short, to answer, I'm going way over here. Joshua Hanson's question is, in terms of coaches, just go out and find one. The Minnesota Timberwolves, decided midway through the year last year that it wasn't working, and they went and got, is it Chris Finch? I think his name's Chris Finch from Toronto. Let's see. And look, they're a playoff team this year. And everyone gave him a hard time, but they just said, hey, this guy's really good. And he's been fantastic. And And did anyone know who he was? I promise you there's other teams out there and there's coaches out there that would love to join the team. Now, it may not matter if the Jazz just blow it up, then, who cares? You can take your time to find a coach that you can develop with the team, and maybe you go out and get someone from the Toronto tree. Maybe you bring back Johnny Bryant. Maybe you go look and you just like go put a job description on LinkedIn and say, let's see who wants to come and be a head coach in the NBA. I'm sure there's guys out there. So I don't know. Don't be afraid to go for it. If you know that what you have is not good enough, don't settle. No more settling as Jazz fans. All right. Let's stop settling. One other point before we get into the questions. The one other thing I wanted to say is because this Jazz team is so set in this system of the drop big on defense, and then we have the pick and roll offense with Rudy, but because Rudy Gobert is basically just a roll threat on offense, that is only one thing that the defense has to take away. Because Rudy, and we're just being honest, really struggles if he has the ball in his hands with his back to the basket and can't really do anything. He is a roll threat, and that's it. Now, there's nothing wrong with that if you have the tools to overcome that. But this Jazz team has not equipped this team with the tools to play, to overcome that issue. And so that's why we see some of these things happen. It just is what it is. And so that's why when the Jazz go small in that third quarter, Quinn took Quinn the game 3, just like it did 5 years ago against Houston, where he finally put Jay Crowder into the starting lineup. Finally. Like, that's the thing that's crazy to me is Quinn Snyder is so predictable. He's doing the same thing he did 5 years ago, the same thing. Once it looks like things are in dire straits and the Houston Rockets are absolutely blowing the doors off the Jazz, you put in Jay Crowder over Derek Favors. You finally do the obvious thing, and it's too little too late. It might be the same situation now with Luka Doncic coming back. Why have the Jazz not done a little more 5-out lineup? Some of the issues with Rudy Gobert are still overcomable because he's so good. But when you put Hassan Whiteside out there against this 5-out lineup, he's even slower than Rudy Gobert, and he is not the defensive player that Rudy Gobert is. Hassan Whiteside's been surprisingly good this year. One of the best stories of the year for this Jazz team, actually. But he can't play in this series. He just can't. When they're going 5-out like that, you can't. And so what we should have done is been adjusting really fast and said, geez, this doesn't work. We should probably go a 5-out. Lo and behold, game 3, they do it in the second half, and the Jazz come back on a massive run. Why? Why did that work? That's the question. Was it because all of a sudden Donovan started trying? Well, there's two things, and I maybe we can do a film study of this. I don't know if I have time. Two things. On defense, it made it easier to switch. It just does. With Rudy Gobert on the floor, Rudy is incredible. I'm not trying to dog on Rudy Gobert because he's amazing. He really is. And his recovery and his ability to get back and guard the perimeter and go back is great. But when Rudy Gobert's on the floor, it is much easier for other teams to ISO players on the Jazz. And because the Jazz have filled their team with 4 bad defenders, there's nothing you can do. And so what they do is they just drive to the rim. Rudy Gobert eventually comes back to the rim to try to stop the shot. And then they just pass the ball to the perimeter and then find the open guy. And this series, it's been Maxi Kleber, and he's just absolutely torched the Jazz. 75% from 3. When he's off, it becomes a simpler defense. Why? Because you just switch. And what does switching do? Switching forces players into isolations, and I guess that's the thing is players get into isolations, but these Jazz players are switching. It's just easier. And so, maybe the defense isn't technically better, but it does seem like it's easier, because when you have Rudy Gobert trying to protect the rim and do both, every single player on that team has to have the eyes in the back of their head to see where Rudy's going, to go out in the perimeter. And that's just hard. It's just really hard. And so eventually the team finds the mistake, because that's what playoff basketball is you find the mistake and you take advantage of it. And that's just kind of what happens. And so this Jazz team, maybe they are bad defender. Not maybe, they are bad perimeter defenders. They just are bad. But they're also not the most like defensively minded and not able to recover. They're not they're not good enough. But when you have a 5-out offense like this and guys are just said, hey, when they set a screen, just switch and then just do your best to keep your man in front of you. That's all you have to do. It's just simpler. And that's why you saw the run, and it forced the Dallas Mavericks to like think, because they know exactly what Quinn's going to do when Rudy's on the floor. They know exactly what to do. But then when they switched it up, it like actually forced the Mavericks players to think, and they're like, whoa, what do we do? All like on the fly, they have to think, and the run started. The thing that was also interesting was the offensive end, and it wasn't even necessarily the fact that Donovan exploded. By the way, Donovan had a great night offensively, but it was in that second half. Although 1 for 8 from 3 is not good enough. That shot all year has just not been the same. I don't know why. This has actually been the major thing this year. Talk about clutch all you want. Donovan 3-point percentage just dipped. Just absolutely dipped. And tonight was an example of that. Donovan's energy was just bad in the first half. And I wonder if he just tried to make a point in the second half when they went with the 5-out lineup and Donovan looked like a superstar again. Like that. 6 assists for Donovan. But what happened is they had the 5-out lineup. They put Eric Paschall on the floor. And in those 10 minutes, look at that. +9. He was awesome. Well, and that wasn't in the 10 minutes. They actually brought him in at the end. And it didn't go quite as well, but that was because the momentum was taken away because Quinn Snyder put the starters back in at the end of the game for some stupid reason, and then the Mavericks knew exactly what to do again. So, just great. But anyways, what happened is when Donovan Mitchell had a 5-out spread lineup, he could drive to the rim. And then he can get the ball to Eric Paschall, who can catch the ball and can make a play at the rim. So when they have someone like Maxi Kleber, who's not a good defender, on the floor, and he's out there to shoot threes and not get offensive rebounds, you take advantage of that guy with Paschall. And so it shouldn't be that surprising that did so well. First off, it's 5 out so that Rudy Gobert, who sits in the dunker's spot, allowing their big man to sit in the paint, all of a sudden he's out. And he's out on the 3-point line, and he made a corner 3. Didn't he? I thought he did. Eric Paschall makes the corner 3. Yep, 1 for 2. He's 50% from 3. Shout out to Quinn, who doesn't play him very much. Anyways, he catches the ball, and he can make plays at the rim. Like what? We'll watch him. And these were just 2 shots. But what happens is Paschall can, he can make a play. So he can drive to the rim and score. And that's an and one. Look at that! Oh my gosh, I didn't notice that! Oh my gosh. Look at this. Oh my gosh. Wait, first, Jacob Pleiser. James, what do you think happens if the Jazz hang on to the Quinn in the offseason? All right, I'm going to answer that right now. I might die. That's what might happen. If the Jazz hang on to Quinn, it's because they believe that this Jazz makeup was the reason the Jazz were bad. That's the only reason I think they would think, and that they want to give Quinn a chance with a different type of team. I will personally die. Personally, just will die. Anyways, let's check this out. Look at this. So first off, the fact that he can dribble and make a play. Kleber can't do anything. He's a bad defender. That's what's so frustrating about all this. You can see my images for my thumbnails. Look at who's he looking at here? This certainly looks like he's looking at the Jazz bench. What did he say? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The drama. What did he say? Everyone in the comments who's a member, tell me what they said. Yomi Sith Talon. Thank you. Welcome to Rookie, my man. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for joining the channel. We got a rookie with promise, and I promise you on the Hoopster channel, we're going to play you more. Like Jared Butler should have played this year, but Quinn Snyder don't, because I'm not going to be like Quinn Snyder and not play my rookies, baby. Jonathan James photo, member for 8 months. Jalen Brunson is this year's Terrace Man. We got PTSD from Terrace Man, my friends. Okay. Anyways, that's why it was better. Pascal can catch the ball and make a play at the rim, and he can shoot a three. You know, there's two things that Rudy Gobert provides. Well, three, maybe four. I'm turning into Michael Scott. Let's say three major things that Rudy Gobert provides on offense. One, he is a great screener, really good, and he opens up space for the Jazz guards. So Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell, although teams have kind of learned to navigate that, but he is a great screener and he creates space. Like one of Rudy's things on offense is he's kind of like having an amazing offensive line in the NFL. So screening. Two, he's a great roller, like great. And not only does he he gets the lobs and dunks them and he's great at that, but also him rolling to the rim creates gravity. So you combine the screening with the lob threat and it creates space for Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley to take that mid-range shot. And so when that's going, it's great. Now, teams are taking that away because they're like switching and backing off and like taking away the role from Rudy. We could delve into that, but we won't. But they're taking that role away. And then third, and this is partly why I think the Jazz offensive rating is so good, is he's a offensive rebounder. He's really good at it, and he's huge. And so he'll get putbacks, and he'll get 2 to 4 points a game on offensive putbacks. And so that's why you'll see a game like this where he has, a game where he was a minus, what was Rudy? Minus 16, but he's 6 for 6 from the field. So you look at the box score and you're like, why doesn't this guy get more shots? Well, a lot of these shots are putbacks on offense. And then you shouldn't be surprised when the Dallas Mavericks aren't even trying. That Mavericks don't care about offensive rebounds for the other team because they're putting in shooters, Maxi Kleber and Davis Bertans, and those guys are playing center. Dwight Powell even shoots threes, although you'll notice he only played 13 minutes. Kleber played 22. There is a very clear game plan there for them, and that is to spread the floor. They don't care. So those are the three things he does. That's it, though. That's it. And so you can't get anything else. He struggles to hold the ball. He struggles to catch the ball. He turns it over a lot. He doesn't have a back to the basket game like whatsoever. It's just a struggle. And I know we saw some things at the Olympics, but it's just not translated. And it just is what it is. They've tried, and maybe that's on Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley. They're not very great at it, but they've tried. And it just doesn't work. And I think, honestly, this team is just tired of it. And I think that's part of what's going to happen. All right, so let's see. Let's get through these questions again. So back to Cook It Up, ZZ. Thank you again for the donation. Let's see. Also, what do you want the Jazz to do in the summer? What players do you want gone/stay? And what new players you want? So kind of like my comment earlier. I think this Jazz team is broken. But I don't think it's just the team. I think it's the coach. And I actually think it's a front office. I think it's just got to be a clean sweep. Now, Justin Zanuck, I do like. I think he's done some good things. I think he has talent in terms of like bringing someone in. Justin Zanuck bringing in Bojan Bogdanovic was a really great move. I think Zanuck and Ainge stay. And I think they work together, and I think Zanuck's really solid. I think they made some mistakes this year. I think the draft this year was actually a mistake. To draft Butler in the second round, you should have got him in the first. Because like we've talked about, that cut off 2 years of his contract at the end. Now, Butler might not turn into anything. But if he does, the Jazz automatically miss out on 2 years of it because he's a second-round pick. Because this first contract, he's already in the final year next season of his first year's contract, And we'll see what happens next year, but it's wild. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. I'm not looking at his contract right now. I don't have time. But it's a second-round pick instead of a first-round pick. And by the way, I think Herb Jones went this year, and we could have probably got Herb Jones. And I know the Jazz had some interest in him. And what a bummer that was. But Quinn Snyder doesn't care about defensive players, so we didn't draft him. So that's what do I want to do? I want Quinn Snyder gone. I'm over it. I wish him well. I will give him a ride to the airport. He can I'll make him a cheesecake and he can bring it with him, and I'll thank him for his time. Uh, but please clear out your desk. And I just wish him the best. But it's time for a change. It's time for something different. The next thing is, I personally think it's time to just. I thought last year, and we talked about it. Go watch the Clipper video. I can't remember your name on Twitter. Thank you for the shout out. I talked about the Jazz need to think about trading Rudy last year because I just think the team makeup was just, it just didn't work. It's too schemable. It's too schemable. And so they needed to do some sort of change. And I thought Donovan Mitchell should be full-time point guard. I thought they should have traded Rudy Gobert. I wanted to sign and trade Mike Conley because it was clear that he was just not it. And they didn't do it. They just ran it back again, and they created this Groundhog Day of a season. And now this is what's happening. And so we could have probably surrounded Donovan Mitchell with wings like Pascal Siakam. I mean, if that trades, can you imagine like a team that played like they did in the third quarter with Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes, and then you go out and get like, I don't know, a nice center, like someone, just an average, you know, I don't know. I bet you could have gone out and gotten Valanciunas, and you have a nice starting level center. He doesn't have to be elite or anything like that, but something like that. Or you just draft one, right? You could have probably gotten the center from the New York Knicks. What's his name? And you'd have been just as, it's the same thing, but it's cheaper, right? Although he's probably coming to the Jazz this offseason. What's his name? I really liked him last year. I forgot. Um, Mitchell Robinson. Like you go and you trade for someone like that. I don't know. Although the Jazz don't have any assets, so they probably couldn't have anyway. But anyways, I think that you have to at this point blow this team up because you should have done these moves last offseason. You put off the inevitable. They needed to adjust. They needed to put players around Donovan Mitchell that boosted his skill set because, like we've seen this year, Donovan Mitchell's just not a very good defender. If he's like trying to carry the load and trying to carry the team, he's just not very good. I bet you if he has a team around him that was built around his skill set, it would be better, but it's too late at this point, you know? So you could have had something like that. I don't know if that's completely true. If that's true, that is heartbreaking. But you could have had elite defenders around him, and then it's like you have more size, and then you're a better defensive team, and then you hope that Donovan Mitchell takes the next step, you know? Now, this year has kind of made me wonder if there is a next step for him, but I'm a little worried that he's going to go to another team that's going to build around his skill set a little better, and Jazz fans are going to kick themselves for all the mean things we said about him. Not me, but some people said some things about Donovan Mitchell, and we'll see. Maybe not. Maybe he'll be what he is right now, which is a guy that has like a chance to just go off like crazy in some series, and then sometimes you have a season where you're shooting 1 for 8 from three. I have a feeling his 3-point percentage will go back up next year, but this year has been such a weird year. Anyways, I think you have to trade everyone. Why? Well, one, I think Rudy Gobert is going to be paid $45 million in like 3 years, and now is your chance to just get some value for him. I think a lot of teams out there can imagine themselves having a top 10 defense and making the playoffs. Like we've always said, if you get Rudy Gobert, you're going to have a top 10 defense and you're going to make the playoffs if you have good players around him, like this Jazz team. So someone out there that wants to be in the playoffs, maybe the Kings, maybe some team that's just starved to make the playoffs will say, hey, we'll take Rudy Gobert. Here's a first round pick, maybe two. We want to be a playoff team. We'll take them. But what you do is you just go to the highest bidder. Because Rudy Gobert has years on his contract, so he has value. He has a lot of value. Donovan Mitchell, I think you have to trade. At some point, we need to recognize rumors. They come from somewhere, you know? That's why when we talked about that New York rumor, I can't remember which video it is because we do a million videos on here. But that one rumor came from like a reliable place. It was like Tim McMahon or something. I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't like, so and so at clickpoints.com/net.eu. It was like an actual reporter that was mentioning it. Now, I kind of wondered, and I had talks with some of my friends at SLC Dunk, like, well, who could this come from? And we kind of wondered if maybe it was Donovan's dad in New York, like trying to get him to New York and stuff. Maybe. Although, it could be Donovan himself through his agent. Like we've talked about, these things come from the agents. So, but can we, like, if it comes from an actual reporter, guys that whose reputation is on the line, can we stop saying like these guys are just making it up because they hate the Jazz? Let's start believing it. My opinion is that Donovan Mitchell right now has more value than he's ever going to have. And maybe he goes to somewhere else and he just takes another step. But at this point, I feel like this is the ceiling for Donovan with this Jazz team, because even if you trade Rudy at this point, I don't think you're getting something of that level. Maybe you can get a top 4 pick in this draft. And if you can, you do that so fast for Rudy. For Donovan, I think you can get a treasure trove. He's a superstar. When he's playing well, he's a top 15 player in this league. And someone like New York will give you everything, 4 or 5 years of picks. And if the Jazz don't believe that Donovan is that guy, and you trade him to New York, and they're bad or whatever, you get great picks out of it. And then you just tank for a couple years. This is the issue. And like weirdos online got so mad at SLC Dunk like 4 years ago when we said tank no. Like weirdos. Like, come on. What happened? Donovan Mitchell has never had a down year. He has never felt what it's like to lose like consistently. Like Cade Cunningham, he knows the bitter herb of losing on the Pistons this year. And he learned what he needed to overcome, what he needed to be good at. Donovan Mitchell came to the Jazz and immediately was on a team with a star center who made everything easy for everyone else. And he had a coach who for years preached that we just let guys drive past us and go to Rudy Gobert. Literally, Quinn Snyder was teaching them to do that. Now we're angry because they're like honestly, that's what's so crazy is like they used to just teach them to drive them to the hoop because who was there? Rudy Gobert. Now we don't like that because it's terrible. It was dumb then, and I used to hate it then, and it's dumb now, honestly. I should have started this channel even sooner. We should have been, although, how long have I been doing this channel? A while. But we used to talk about how weird that was, and it made no sense back then, and it's finally caught up to us, and so I'm kind of happy in a way that that's been validated anyways. If Donovan's leaving in 3 years anyway, get ahead of it. Get the treasure trove. Houston, everyone talked to Houston about how, like, the trade they got, they got a pretty darn good thing with James Harden, and he's like past his prime. Donovan Mitchell is at the beginning of his prime right now. This is the prime. The next 4 or 5 years for Donovan is his prime. Maybe it extends beyond, but he's a smaller player that depends a lot on athleticism and quickness. Right now, this is it. And so if you're a team that wants to like take it to the next level, you can get this guy right in his prime. Maybe you're the Pistons, I don't know, and you want like a cohort with Cade Cunningham. I don't know. Donovan wants to go New York. Maybe you send him to New York and you can enjoy that franchise. And you get all the picks because they're terrible. I don't know. But you can get a treasure trove and you trade him to whoever, you get the best package back. This is a gem. Like, in some ways, it's kind of exciting as Jazz fans because you get a gem. So anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. Donovan starts with this team. He never had a season where he was down, so he's only used to winning. Donovan is only used to like playoffs and winning and like getting to the next level and talking about going all the way and all these things. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you get used to that. You play for 4 or 5 years with this Jazz team and you never have a down year. Donovan's not up for having a tank year, but the thing that the Jazz need to do next year is 100% tank so they get their pick. Well, actually, I believe they get their pick next year. I can't remember if it's next year's is the Thunder pick or the year after. I actually believe we will convey the Memphis pick this year. We don't get a first round pick this year, by the way. Icing on the cake. But anyways, next year we do. You have to tank. You have to tank. You have to tank. You have to. You are not getting as much value back for Mike Conley as you put out there. Sorry. You might get like get excited over Spencer Dinwiddie. You know what I mean? Like that's what did the Mavericks get? Davis Bertans and Spencer Dinwiddie for Kristaps Porzingis. You know, is anyone here excited for Dinwiddie? I mean, he had a nice night tonight, but I'm not gonna like. I don't know. I'm not gonna throw a party over 2 for 7 from three. Uh, and Clarkson has almost no value. I mean, he has some value, but you're not getting like a better player. So you're almost better just playing Clarkson. Honestly, Clarkson might be the one player that's left next year. Just let it be the Clarkson show. But anyways, Clarkson, you're not getting much for Mike Conley. If you get a first round pick for Conley, that's like a massive win. Maybe. Maybe. And that's like a maybe. But the Jazz are basically fire sale next year, in my opinion, is what they should do. Because the thing with Donovan, he's never going to want to tank because he's only known winning and he doesn't want to tank. He has 3 years left and there's rumors of him leaving, which are probably true. So you probably just have to get ahead of it because losing him for nothing is the worst. And you get like an absolute immense, haul back and you start over. The other problem is that the Jazz never did it right. They skipped steps. So they had Donovan and Rudy. They needed that other guy. And maybe we thought it would be Bojan, and they tried to do it with like the right role players. And I think they thought that Mike Conley would be that. That trade's been just a flop for 3 years in a row. I think they thought that Mike Conley would be that third guy, and it just didn't turn out to be. What they needed was to find that third guy in the draft. And they needed that first year with Rubio, they should have tanked. They really should have. Then they could have gotten that guy. Anyways, so that's what they should have done. And so now they need to do it right. You need to tank for at least a year or two. You need to find yourself a star. You need to find your Karl Malone. You need to find that MVP level guy. And then you got to find you've got to find your Batman and you've got to find your Robin. And then you go. And right now the Jazz, it feels like they have 2 Robins. Let's see. Zach Watts, I don't think you had a question in there. Sorry, I went long on that. Gobert, Bogdanovich for Cat or Gobert for Siakam. I might do Gobert for Siakam if we are going with Donovan Mitchell. But we probably that was the thing. We already kind of talked about that. I think I would just go for the tank at this point, Memphis. Let's see. Thank you, Jonathan or Joshua. Thank you again. Let's see. I live in London. If we lose it, what's your next one? James, what do you think? Let's see. James, what do you think happens in the Jazz hang on to Quinn in the offseason? Oh, I answered that. I will die. Thank you again to Yomi Scythlon. Jonathan James photo 199. Anyways, I think that's all the questions. I think honestly you have to just kind of tank next year. You need to do it right. You need to go out and get your stud. By the way, go look up Wembanyama. He is from France. He is a center. If there's anything we like in Utah, it's French centers. Imagine Rudy Gobert with an elite Kevin Durant-y offensive game. I mean, I don't know if it's quite Kevin Durant, but it is, whoo boy, it is impressive stuff. And it's the type of guy that you draft and then you tank another year so you get another guy and then you just go. But man, is he special. He is special. And you just go for it. Maybe you can get Wembanyama, man. Wembanyama is fantastic. And he has a chance to be a special NBA player. And he's from France, and so he might be happy in Utah for a long time. It seems like the foreign players don't really care where they go. They just, as long as they're on a team that they enjoy, you know what I mean? Like Jokic in Denver and Rudy in Utah and yeah, Asler 2K. Guys, I'm telling you, go look up Wembanyama and you might agree with me. Let's just tank. Let's get a blue chip prospect like that, or someone else, and then tank maybe another year so you get 2 studs. You need 2 studs. It's really what you need. I mean, there's a lot of things about Daryl Morey that annoys the heck out of me, and I don't agree with him on many things, and I think he's overrated as heck. But the one thing I do like about Daryl Morey is you need 2 stars. And I think you can't, the 2 stars on the Jazz, it just hasn't worked. But they are, last year it almost did. But if the Jazz can get 2 stars, preferably stars with size, length, and shooting and defense, then you go. I mean, that's the formula. It was John and Carl. Carl was the MVP. Stockton was the elite bat Robin prospect, and he liked being the Robin. He liked to set up Batman. And then you have Darren Williams, and then I guess Carlos Boozer was kind of like that second guy. And you had Mehmet Okur and Kyle Korver, and you kind of had that collection of players that played really well together. And then you have this team, an AK-47 also. And by the way, every star the Jazz have gotten, how have they gotten their stars? Through the draft. John Stockton, Karl Malone, Andre Kirilenko, Darren Williams. Darren Williams, they tanked for. Darren Williams. And then every time the Jazz have brought someone in through free agency, it's been kind of an elite role player. Carlos Boozer was kind of like, Carlos Boozer, I think he made some all-star teams, and he was like with the Olympic team. So he was a second star, I guess you could say, but I don't think anyone would have put Carlos Boozer any higher than like top 15. And then Mehmet Okur, elite stretch big, those were fun teams, but you might have to start over and do it the right way. And the right way is getting your stars and then building and just doing it again. And it might be really fun. Although it'll be really tough too. So anyways, let's see. I got to give a shout out to the All-Stars. You guys are freaking amazing tonight. We got a new rookie. Let's see. It's 12:30 Mountain Time. And you guys are here. You're amazing. You're amazing. All right, let's give a shout out to Total Game Domination, TGD, Christian House Money to Haas, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, Baby Elliott Matson, X marks the spot for Zintas, Jordan the Goat Best Roll, Joshua Hansen, the Danish Destroyer, N1 Anton Warren, Ezekiel Ricebe, the Manfred Down Under, JT Buckets Wardell, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, Eric C., the C stands for Champion, Donald Schooley, Schooling All of Us, DW to CB, Darren Williams to Carlos Boozer, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo, Lee Christensen driving the lane, Patrick Kubo, the Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. 449 Rudy/Butler for John Wall Sengun. Maybe I'm kind of in the, just my opinion. Thank you, Memphis, for the donation. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much. I'm more in like the draft pick things because I just want to be bad. I guess Sengun is pretty good, but I just don't know if I see him as like a cornerstone piece. Like what you want to do is get as many draft picks. You want as many swings of the bat at that draft to try to hit a home run. Because you need a home run. And then, because think about all the titles in the last 10 years. You've got Giannis winning it last year, LeBron winning it the year before, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, MVP guys, literal MVPs. Giannis, literal MVP. LeBron, MVP. Kevin Durant, MVP. Steph Curry, MVP. Karl Malone got to the finals, MVP. Michael Jordan, MVP. Like Tim Duncan, MVP. You have to have that guy. You just have to. And so the Jazz do not have an MVP, and it just makes it very hard. But, you go to that draft, you can get an MVP. So that's what you have to do. And it's really hard, and it's not an exact science, and it's tough. But, Wembanyama, potential to be an MVP. He has that type of potential. He's that good. He's that good. And you start over and you fall in love with him and you root for Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert on whatever other teams they're on. And you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Anyways, guys, if you're new here and you're watching and you haven't already, like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Everyone for the donations tonight. It's been incredible. I mean, you guys are amazing. Thank you for being here tonight. It's a long one, but I think we had some things we had to talk about. So our show tonight, shout out. I want to say, so if the season's near the end, we'll talk about it in my next show, but I want to be better about giving you guys the rewards. We'll start doing the one-on-ones. I think we'll do more of that next year because, if the Jazz are tanking, we're going to have to talk about what we think is the next move the Jazz need to make. And it's talking about players and prospects and what we're seeing and things like that, which I actually think is really fun, but it can be tough. And then I'm going to start doing stuff for NBA. By the way, you guys are kind of supporting this, and I kind of look at you guys as also a part of that NBA channel, which is coming, and we're going to always be doing both because they're fun and they're therapeutic and great. Furby Jr., member for 15 months. My man. Woo! Woo! Going all the way. Yes, we are. So we'll see. And guess what? It's not over yet. Maybe the Jazz figure it out. They're only down 2-1. Things aren't great, though. But Luka Doncic is coming back, and maybe that's the thing that they can like focus on and change. I don't know. Maybe in some weird way it helps them. Anyways, guys, like I said, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will talk to you